Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
8:07 now on O'Connor and Company. It's the fourth hour of our program, and if you've missed our podcast, if you've missed any of our broadcast, subscribe to our podcast. Bethany, you get me all flustered.
I told you during the commercial break, and I will reiterate it, I am not sorry.
You're not sorry about any of the things that you put me through this morning.
Nope.
Unbelievable. Coming up in 30 minutes, Chuck Thies will join us. DC political analyst, Mayor Bowser, acknowledging her gratitude for the surge of law enforcement brought by President Trump. What's that all about? We'll get to it. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. She's the proprietor of the Mom Wars podcast and Substack. Go check that out. We have a mom warrior joining us now. We love our conversation every week with KT McFarland, former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, but certainly in the room where it happened, going all the way back to the Nixon-Kissinger days. She's author of the book Revolution. I want to remind everybody that she was, in fact, 12 years old when she worked for Nixon and Kissinger. KT McFarland. Good morning, KT.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Give us an update on Israel, if you could, as the operation to close in on Gaza City and, as I like to say, finish the job. Are they actually going to finish the job, and how is that looking right now?
Well, if they don't finish the job, Hamas will just be there year after year after year, and nothing will change. Yeah. Not only finish the job, but finish the job quickly. It's pretty clear now to anybody who's paying attention that Hamas is never going to negotiate in good faith, that their goal is always to just live another day. They're not going to give up any of the things they've been doing. In fact, their whole modus of operandi is to kill Jews, destroy Israel. And in fact, if they have to kill their own people in the process by starving them, by putting them in the line of fire, by making them human shields, that's just fine with the leaders of Hamas because it gets them PR victories because they can blame Israel. They know they can't win militarily. They think they can win in the court of public opinion. And every day they're not dead is another day they won.
So I saw that there was a meeting at the White House that Ron Dermer, actually, he scrapped a meeting with Sidney McCain. I would do that, too, just for any reason. Yeah. But Jared Kushner was there, and former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair was also there, talking about sort of the day after plan for Gaza and, securing the release of the remaining 20 living hostages and what that looks like for the day after plan. Do you have any insights on what that day after plan might be?
Well, the fact that Jared Kushner was there on the day after plan meeting is significant.
Yeah.
And that's because he has had very close relations with that next generation of Arab leaders in the region. The very beginning of the Trump administration, like first week, we sat around the table in the Situation Room and tried to decide what should we do in the Middle East? Should we support the same old guys we had supported before, especially in Saudi Arabia? Or should we look to the younger generation, which promised to be more pro-Western, to open their society, to open their economy? And it was a risk because the younger generation was unproven. And Jared was the one who said, no, trust the young guys. They're the ones who are going to change things. And sure enough, that's what happened. President Trump trusted them, and they've transformed the Middle East. Now you have the Abraham Accords. So the fact that Jared is in that meeting he's someone who is close to the 30, 40-year-old leaders of these countries. And he'll be able to represent the idea that, well, the day after isn't America, again, boots on the ground, American money, American efforts, that a lot of it would be participating, particularly financially, participating in the rebuilding of the Palestinian areas. The bill will be footed by those countries.
KT, let's turn to Russia and Ukraine after the high-profile meeting in Alaska with Putin and then the equally high-profile meeting with Zelensky and representatives from the EU in Washington, D.C. Things seem to be stalled. President Trump seems frustrated. Lavrov has now come out and saber-rattled and sort of played bad cop, if that's possible, to Vladimir Putin, maybe giving him room to come in and be the good cop diplomat. Who knows? President Trump was asked about this during the extraordinary cabinet meeting that he had on Tuesday. Listen to his response, and then since you've worked with the president, I'd love for you to analyze it. Cut 15.
This past weekend, Sergei Lavrov was saying that Putin will not sign a peace deal with Zelensky because Russia views him as illegitimate. I'm just wondering if the Russians have been relaying this to your team if they view Zelensky, as a leader worth signing a peace deal with, if they will.
Doesn't matter what they say. Steve can answer, but I can answer too. Doesn't matter what they say. Everybody's posturing. It's all okay. Everybody's posturing. Steve, do you have a different answer?
I agree with you, sir.
That's Steve Witkoff, of course. So, first of all, I'd love for you to sort of take the measure of President Trump's response there, because you don't see him that frustrated all the time about things like this, and he certainly did want to see progress with the Russia-Ukraine situation.
The reason he needed to end the Ukraine situation, where Ukraine is, Ukraine's sovereignty is protected, security is guaranteed, he wanted to do it in such a way that he didn't alienate Russia, because his real goal here is to make sure that Russia and China aren't joined at the hip. So if he can get a deal where he then has an improved relationship with Russia going out of that Ukraine deal, that's what he wanted. But it's increasingly looking like Putin, Hamas, Iran all have the same negotiating playbook, that they all want. None of them want to negotiate in good faith. They all want to just string it along. And as we all saw with Iran and Israel's actions and President Trump's bombing of the Iranian nuclear sites, at a certain point he says, all right, enough already. I'm not going to trust you guys. We're going to have to go to Plan B. And Plan B would be to really crush the Russian economy. It won't happen fast, but it could be devastating.
And so what is the tipping point for that to happen? At what point? Because it seems like we keep doing this start again, stop again, start again, stop again. And meanwhile, by the way, Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine in the background with all this.
I think, to me, and looking at President Trump and knowing him as I do, I think the tipping point is that he really wants the killing to stop. And so when he sees that not only is Russia not negotiating or negotiating in bad faith, but ramping up the fatalities, I think he's getting close to the tipping point. And when President Trump, he doesn't want to do it because he really does not want to forsake good relations with Russia going forward. But if that's what it's going to take, I think he's getting there. And one of the reasons that, Larry, it seemed like he was going back and forth, accept, not accept, negotiating, not negotiating. He needed to line up the trade deals first, like with the European Union particularly. Once those are in place and locked in, then he can apply what are called secondary sanctions against other countries like India. And that's when the real trade from Russia stops. Russia has no income going forward.
What do you read into? I'm sorry. What do you read into this bombardment, which seems pretty significant in Kiev overnight?
Mm-hmm. The Russians, I think Putin has decided, I'm going to wait them out. It's a war of attrition. Russia can win a war of attrition. It's a bigger country, more resources. I'll just wait them out because Donald Trump won't be president forever. I can fight forever. The Russian people are used to great sacrifice in their national security goals. And I think either Putin is deciding he's just going to wait everybody out and be the last man standing, or he's decided, well, I may have to negotiate 6 months from now, but I want to get as much as I can now. I want to bomb myself into a good position now. Either way, it doesn't matter. I think President Trump's running out of patience.
We will leave it there. KT McFarland, thanks for joining us as always.
Pleasure.
8:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
We are just about 3 weeks away from early voting beginning in the Commonwealth of Virginia for this year's off-year election, the governor's race, also statewide, the attorney general and the lieutenant governor's race. And boy, oh boy, Bethany Mandel, Winsome Earl Sears is waking up to a very different election forecast this morning than she did just 3 months ago when everyone had written her off. They were already talking about Abigail Spanberger as potentially a running mate in the 2028 presidential election because she was 17, 18, 19 points ahead of Winsome Earl Sears. It was a done deal. Spanberger was going to be the next governor. The latest poll now has Winsome Earl Sears down by 5 points. If you take the Real Clear Politics average of polls, it shows a 6.8% deficit for the Republican nominee. But either way, it is a spiral right now for Abigail Spanberger, and Winsome Sears is having her moment.
Yeah, and I could not be less surprised. And I think the momentum is really the interesting part of this story that it's building. And I think that the momentum really, really accelerated when she appeared at the school board meeting. Yeah. And that was really where she shined, in my opinion. There's been so much that we've had the opportunity to talk about on air. We did earlier today. There has been so much bad stuff in Virginia that she really has her pick of what she wants to discuss. Yeah. And on every single one of these issues, she's got they're 80-20 issues. You say it all the time. And she is in the 80%. And there's only so many 80-20 issues before people start thinking, I don't know, maybe I'll vote for like Youngkin Part 2, basically, because things are going pretty well in Virginia. And if you don't vote for Winsome, like things are gonna get pretty dire pretty fast.
And the Spanberger campaign's response to these issues, and let's be clear on what these issues are. You had boys expelled from or suspended from a school in Loudoun County because they objected to a girl in their locker room. Winsome Sears is taking the side of the boys and biological truth. Spanberger, silent. Yeah. Boys in girls sports, the State Board of Education has determined now that we will no longer have boys in women's sports. Sears celebrates it. Spanberger silent, although not really silent, because on all of these gender issues, when given the opportunity to vote at the federal level as a congresswoman, she voted for the so-called Equality Act.
We know where she stands. Not that they ever ask her, but we know where she stands.
We know where she stands, but she's staying silent. And there's more. The 5 major school districts in Northern Virginia are defying the Department of Education because they're violating Title IX on all the gender policies, and they're willing to forego federal funding. And that she hasn't said a word about that. On the abortions in Fairfax County that we talked about in the last hour, she won't say a word about that. I wonder if she actually stood up and said, you know what, here's where I stand on these issues, and then delivered her principled reason why she thinks that boys who identify as girls should be in the locker room. I wonder if that would help her. But clearly they've decided better to not say a thing at all and run from these issues and hide and not show any leadership than actually tell the people of Virginia where you stand on it. It's a fascinating, but maybe they learned from Terry McAuliffe, who actually made the mistake of saying that he doesn't think parents should have a say in these things.
Right. This lack of messaging is why we saw that incredibly beautiful sign.
Yes. Remind everyone what the sign said.
Right. So I'm pulling it up right now. Hey, Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain. Yeah. When you gotta give your supporters some talking points, or they're just going to be openly racist. And
that is a great point. That is it. If Abigail Spanberger doesn't deliver the message, her rabid, insane, left-wing, white women Democrats will deliver the message. And you say it's an 80-20. To be specific, brand new poll out in the Commonwealth of Virginia, not quite 80-20. How about 73-27? 73% of Virginia voters do not want boys participating in girls' sports. It's that simple, and she's on the wrong side of the issue. That said, I've been constantly saying, where's Abigail? Where's Abigail? She won't say anything. She doesn't actually say anything about any issues. She finally did make a policy statement yesterday.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Oh, God.
She promised that if she becomes governor, she will rescind Governor Youngkin's order to have Virginia law enforcement participate in immigration activities with federal immigration authorities. In other words, she would return Virginia to sanctuary state status. I mean,
that's popular.
Hey, at least she took a stand.
No, and you know what? I'm sorry. I applaud that stand. I think I want to hear more about it. I want to hear a lot more about that plan in a lot of detail. And also, broad strokes. If she wants to open every single media event that she has with it, every single in-person, talk about that, please.
In fact, you should welcome Kilmar Abrego Garcia with open arms to come live in Alexandria.
Right next door to her.
Why should Maryland get all of the exciting publicity for our Maryland man? Make him a Virginia man.
Yeah, that's right.
Give him the key to the state, for crying out loud. It's a heck of a race. We'll keep watching it, and this is ground zero for this governor's race. Once again, I want to remind you, early voting begins on September 19th. Election Day is November 4th, and you want to be right here on this program, on this radio station, right up through Election Day. It's 8:23.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
We greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. Now, we have driven it down over the last years, but I'm going to get my glasses so I can make sure.
Yeah, that's okay, Mayor Bowser. I'll fill in the blanks for you. Violent crime down 45%, carjacking down 87%. In just 2 weeks since what she called the surge that she's very grateful for. That was not D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser engaged in some sort of hostage video where she was forced to say those things. It appears as though she voluntarily gave that statement. Joining us right now to unpack it all is the man who knows where all the bodies are buried in the District of Columbia. And I'm, of course, speaking hypothetically, but who knows? Chuck Thies joins us now. Chuck, good morning.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning. It's funny. I happened to be I went for a walk yesterday across downtown, and I happened to be at 441 4th Street, which is the location of the mayor's press conference. It was just a happenstance. I had no idea that she was going to have a press conference, and it was a spectacle unlike I've seen anything in D.C. for at least 15 years. There were 16 or 17 camera crews there, more journalists than I've seen truly since the investigation and arrest heyday of the early 2010s in D.C. It was, and half of her cabinet was there. It was unbelievable. It was truly unbelievable. And then she rose to the occasion by making remarks that truly made national news. I mean, she said that she greatly appreciates what Trump is doing in D.C.
Which is certainly counter to the national narrative from Democrat elected officials, media members, et cetera. So what's up here? Is she, given the fact that she had her whole cabinet there, is she in some way trying to, get a bounce out of this, as if it has anything to do with her?
No, I think what she's trying to do is thread a very difficult needle. As we talked about before, the overwhelming majority, 94% of the people who live in D.C. didn't vote for Donald Trump. And a good portion of those people, if Trump does it, they don't like it. It doesn't make a difference. If Trump cured cancer, these people would come out in favor of cancer. So she has to deal with this it's true. She has to deal with this constituency, her residents, the people who elected her. But at the same time, she has to deal with the president who just earlier this week threatened her job, said if she doesn't get her act together, she's not going to be mayor anymore. So this is a very difficult needle to thread. And I think she's doing her absolute best, but she's caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. So I don't believe in happenstance or accident. I think you were there on purpose. And the purpose is to give us a play-by-play of what the vibe was in the crowd. Because I've been sitting here listening to these clips all morning that Larry is playing over and over and over because I just don't believe they're real. I think there's some sort of AI creation of fake. What was the vibe in the crowd when she was saying all of these crazy things?
Well, the crowd was probably 95% journalists because it was a press conference.
Right.
And I think they were gobsmacked. I don't think they knew how to process this. The majority of them, they were being fed statistics that show that the 20 days of the surge is an overwhelming success, and there's no two ways about it. It's an overwhelming success. No. Carjacking's down 87%. Homicides down. I don't know what it is. It's more than halved. and violent crime itself down 45%. I mean, you can go on and on and on with the statistics. Arrests are up, gun confiscations are up. So most of the journalists in the room, I don't think were able to process how to handle this. And her first remarks, and I tweeted it almost immediately, her first remarks were that she was greatly appreciative. And I'm telling you, people in the room were just stunned. They were stunned because there was no resistance. There was no defiance. It was the only thing that Bowser said she doesn't like is the National Guard and ICE agents wearing masks. That's it.
Council member at large Robert White Jr. said we shouldn't be giving people the impression that this is a good thing and that we're okay with it. Ward 1 Council member Brianne Nadeau, also a Democrat. I love that the newspaper identifies them as Democrat. They're all Democrat. Said that Bowser's remarks after Bowser's remarks said that D.C. is under siege and our residents are afraid to go out and to work, and they're angry that their limited autonomy is being eroded. And, of course, your good friends Charles Allen and Phil Mendelson can't be happy with this either. So what gives behind the scenes politically here?
Okay, I get on the Metro at 8:30 a.m. yesterday, and I have not been on a Metro that crowded since before the pandemic. So people are definitely going to work because I don't think that at 8:30 in the morning they were going out to a club. So downtown was bustling with everyone but homeless and gangs. Truly, I walked from near the White House all the way over to where the courts are, Judiciary Square, and I saw one obvious homeless person. And I saw no gang activity, which was omnipresent around the basketball arena. So when these council members say that people are afraid to go to work, I think they're only talking about undocumented immigrants. And it's very unfortunate that people who are undocumented are afraid to go to work, but they put themselves into that position. And that is very sad and very unfortunate. But as an adult, when you break a law, you put yourself in position to have that law enforced against you. It's very unfortunate. But these council members are being hyperbolic. I don't know anyone who's afraid to go downtown. I don't know anyone who is scared of the law enforcement activity other than people who are breaking the law.
I'm excited to go downtown.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Real fast, Chuck. Yesterday, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy announced that the federal government would be taking back control, as they legally can, of Union Station. Did Mayor Bowser make any remarks with regard to that?
Yeah, she didn't talk about the specific takeover, but what she said was that there is a vision for making Union Station a much finer and grander and larger facility than it currently is, and she's on board with that.
She should have said, make Union Station great again. That would have been it. Icing on the cake. All right, Chuck. Well, thank you. Listen, we love this town, and we want this town to be successful. We want it to be safe. We want it to be clean. And by the way, we want the people who need help, who are suffering from addiction or mental illness, who found themselves preferring to live on the streets, which is hazardous for them. We want them to get the help they need too. So all of this is moving in the right direction. It's a wonder to see. I appreciate you joining us.
You have a great day.
It's 8:44.
Making sense of your world.
I agree with everything you're saying.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
My heart just breaks for what's going on.
Making sense of the news.
You're going to have a lot of news coverage today of the Minnesota mass shooting. And we just want to give you some more details here that you can take with you, because I'm sure on Morning Joe it's been all about guns all morning. I'm sure they had Chris Murphy, that delusional senator from Connecticut who thinks he can be president of the United States. He ran to a camera as soon as he could to denounce guns. But here's some information that you don't get on those outlets. In the manifesto of this murderer who was suffering from gender dysphoria and was treated, and I use quotation marks, with hormones and drug therapies and prescription drugs that alter his mood when he was a child, he wrote in his manifesto, listen to this now, Bethany, I am sick of my hair. I want to chop it off. I only keep it because it is pretty much my last shred of being trans. I'm tired of being trans. I wish I never brainwashed myself.
It's sad. This is an individual who should have been treated for gender dysphoria instead of having his gender dysphoria magnified and amplified and affirmed.
Yeah,
yes.
Celebrated. So you won't hear that. You won't hear about the fact that if you look at mass murders, mass shootings over the last 10 years where there are 4 or more victims, the 2 most likely demographics of the murderer are transgender or binary men and transgender binary women. You won't hear that discussed. You'll be hearing about lies about semi-automatic weapons. And then finally, there's this that goes well beyond just the transgender issue and frankly may even be more disturbing. Attacks on Catholic and Christian churches in America have risen 730% in the last 7 years. There have now, in just the year 2024, there were 415 hostile acts of one type or another on a Catholic or Christian church in the United States of America. If that were any other religious group, it would rightly get a lot of attention and absolute outrage from all Americans. And I would assume there's outrage for this stat because it's Christian and Catholic. The problem is it's never discussed and it's never talked about. It doesn't get any attention.
Yeah, and instead the focus for extremism is what for the last 4 years was on Moms for Liberty and religious families, honestly.
Right.
We were the ones who were demonized. We're religious families. And, we don't hear enough about this. And I was so pleased to see that, I'm Jewish and to see so many Jewish organizations standing with our Catholic brothers and sisters because,
Amen.
This is something that we are familiar with. And not enough people know that, Catholics are very familiar with it also, unfortunately.
Yeah. We stand with you too, sister. It's 8:52.